Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Demeanor Podcast. It's the one and only Rome Davis coming to you live and direct. This is our very first episode, my very first guest. A lot of you know me as Rome Davis Comedy, a up and coming comedian slash writer slash director slash actor. Uh, very much coming up to the 757 Entertainment. My first guest coming to you live on the Demeanor Podcast is no other than Miss Deborah Davis, aka Deborah with an H. Deborah with an H?
Yes, welcome. Hi, my name is Deborah, and I'm Jerome's mom, as he said. Um, Jerome has the new name Demeanor. But we're gonna at the end. We're gonna ask you to send us a survey. Would you prefer Rome wasn't built in a day, or would you prefer Demeanor? I'm for Rome wasn't built in a day.
And I'm from Demeanor. Deborah with an H, Deborah is my mother. For a lot of people that did not hear that or get that, so literally what I heard, it would not be any podcast. She is one of my backbones and inspirations to keep me going on a day-to-day basis. She has motivated me and stuck with me through thin and thin. I stick with the one that brung me in. I will not stick with the one that took me out. And the one that brung me in is right here to my side. That is my ride or die, my love, my mother. Um, Deborah has recently had a second career finding. She has a second act as far as her career, and it's very dear to me because it's a form of us bonding. And she has, I know a lot of people say, they're proud of their kids, but I'm extremely proud of this woman right here beside me because it takes a lot of guts and courage to do any of the things that she has done. So, major shout out and props to her. I look forward to seeing more of her out there, and I look forward to doing a lot of work with her by my side. Hence, why I have chosen her to be my very first official guest on the Demeanor podcast or the Rome Wasn't Built in a Day podcast. But we'll get your surveys at the end of this podcast. Deborah, would you like to tell people what exactly your second act is?
My second act. First, I want to talk about my first act. My first act. I am an educator. I taught mathematics at the high school level, the middle school level, and at the college level. This is my second act as comedy. I always thought I was funny, but the first person that inspired me to be knew that I was funny was my father. He was a very funny man. He passed away in 2012, and so even when I think of him today, I think about his antics and a smile come upon my face. Um, I got I really thought that I had a great audience is when I started teaching, and I would introduce myself and I would talk about my family, and my students would laugh, and I would just tell them about the things that goes on in my life. And so someone always said, "Oh, you should be a comedian. You're funny. You're funny." And so I thought about it, and I'm like, okay. So last year around this time, I expected to go to the Funny Bone for the New Year's Eve show, but my brother passed away. And so, for those of you who have a candlelight service New Year's Eve, and so I went to church and I gave my son the tickets to the Funny Bone. But when I purchased the ticket, what happened was I saw that they had a comedy school. And so when I purchased the ticket, I checked every month to see, when it's going to happen. So when my son came home, he decided that he wanted to go to comedy school. So being the mom that I said, okay, son, you go ahead on in there. And so he went and he performed in that March. And so I went back on the website and checked it every month until they offered comedy school. When they offered to me the first time, it was a schedule conflict because I was teaching at night. And so the second time, come rain or shine, I decided to enroll in it, and I did. And it was an experience. It's something that I love to do.
So, comedy was something that you love to do.
Yes, it's always been something. Coming up, there were not a lot of women that looked like me, African American women who were comedians. They were in the entertainment field. There was only one that I knew of, and that was Mom Mabel. And what Mom Mabel did was she had her own gimmick. She had no teeth in her mouth. She had a wig on her head, but she paved the way for women of color to be inspiring. us to do better. And then around in the 80s, I never heard of Whoopi Goldberg until I saw The Color Purple. But she did a one stage play, one act play on Broadway. And so from there on, I started seeing other women comedians come out. I saw some more come out. But when came out, when I was little, rather, there was only, they only saw the white comedians, the women. There weren't that many. It was Joan Rivers, Toady Fields, Phyllis Diller, Ann Murrell. And those are the ones that I saw constantly. And they were few far and in between.
So, is that what inspired you to get in comedy?
What inspired me to get into comedy was the people on my job, um, my family. They thought I was funny, especially my students. When my students think I'm funny, because you all live with me at home, so you don't think I'm that funny. You think I'm, always on it, which I probably am. I'm gonna stay on it
Yeah, your foot stays in my back pocket.
forever and a day,
It's been in
forever
my
and a
back
day,
pocket for
forever
30
and a day.
years.
And so they thought I was funny, and when I worked at the Art Institute. The students say, Miss Davis, you're funny, you're funny, you're funny. And then now I'm at Centura, they say, oh, yeah, 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 she's funny. Go, you need to do it, you need to do it. And so I went to see a comedian, and my coworker was there, and she said, Miss Davis, you belong on that stage. And I said, well, that's a sign that I need to get up there. I said, when I got on the Funny Bone stage, it was really inspiring. I wasn't too scared when I got up there because I felt like, I'm in front of an audience teaching school. But I haven't been, I'm going to go back up there. And in fact, I'm going to do a lot of things. Work with my son, he's my motivator. Um, he's inspiring me to even go push even further. My family just constantly is like, you can do this, you got this.
So, in no particular order, okay, no particular order, your top 10 favorite comedians.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory, he was spot on. I mean, I don't know how many of you know about Scoey Mitchell. Uh, he was the first one to be on the Carol Burnett show, Man of Color. Then you have Richard Pryor. Everybody knew about Richard Pryor when you say that nigga's funny. And then in 1976, when Alex Haley did Roots, he went back and apologized for using that term because he went to Africa with Alex Haley. The other one will probably be Don D.C. Carey. Don D.C. Carey, I saw him on the BT show,
Comic View?
Comic View. That's when I've seen him. And then, he's going to talk on a sitcom, Grace Under Fire. He was also a comedian and a comedic actor. And so to me, and when I saw him on stage, and he paved the way for a lot of people like Kevin Hart and what's the guy with the perm?
Cat Williams.
Cat Williams. He paved the way for a lot of them. And Earthquake, I also saw him on Comic View. D.L. Hughley, him, Cedric the Entertainer. I'm not so much fan of a Steve Harvey, but he's okay. But as far as storytelling goes, I follow those that tells a story like Kevin Hart, Richard Pryor. They have a story. Bruce, Earthquake. They talk about their life experience and the people around them. Lavelle Crawford. That's another one. So I follow on that path the same also as Jerry Seinfeld and George Carlin. So
Great choices, great choices.
thank you. And when it comes to the women, I will be always going to be, always will be number one, followed by some more. They're just, they talk like I do, they speak like I do, they use profanity. And it's just funny, but we don't go to the extreme by calling people the B word, the N word, and all this other stuff that goes on.
Okay. So, you came up in that era with the Richard Pryors and the Dick Gregories and stuff like that. I can honestly say you probably came up when it was like the vinyl.
With the vinyl, they was called LPs,
Okay.
albums. Rudy Ray Moore, they was called party albums, party records. Pygmy Molly, those the ones
Pick
that,
Me Molly.
yep, that's the ones that my mom and my dad them listened to. Miss Ashaw neighbor, they brought that up, and they were called party albums. And when they would come on, they would have the kids to go upstairs, but you could still hear it. And they would talk about do all the cuts and had a little rhyme to go with it. Um, what's that one that comedian that came out? Uh, say Doodoo Brown,
Doodoo Brown. The only Doodoo Brown, to be honest, I remember is Two Live Crew.
not too like crew. Luke Skywalker, whatever he called himself. What he took away, he what he did when he came out with the rap was he used what Dolomite, what Rudy Ray Moore and them were doing all the time, and so it was like shock value in the early '80s. But Rudy Ray Moore had already done that then.
I'll say this too about shock comedy. It's definitely took in a complete 180. The shock comedy that you would hear back in the 60s and 70s and 80s and some of the part of the early 90s and late 2000s is way different than what you hear now. It's more derogatory now. I feel like a lot of comedians, if they were to change that shock value, because they talk on topics that I feel like nobody should make a joke about, murder and other topics should not be brought into it. That shock value is definitely not something that I like. I will tune you out. But Deborah, you're a very creative person, very very creative, energetic person. Can you explain like the importance of the creativity?
Creativity is very important, especially if you have to think outside the box. But you have to be mindful of what people uh, expect to hear or want to hear. The sharp values that the people use, that may be their genres, whatever that may be, but for me, that's not for me. I some people find humor in that, but I just don't, and I understand where you're coming from, Jerome. But um, some people just some people find humor with it. They just like, oh, you're a comedian. Oh, that's funny. And sometimes they say things that people want to say who don't look like them, and it's a person that looks like us, and they say things that people who don't look like them want to say, and that's how you take it. I don't find anything funny with crime either. You know, calling people out their names or whatever the case may be. But I, on the other hand, I believe in being you can be a PG, not a PG-13, not a rated X or rated R. So for me, comedy should be PG. And so I think that's what you looking more into, not PG-13 and not X and R.
Right, X and R. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I've experimented with it, but at the end of the day, I'll just say that because you and Jerome, who is my father, like y'all are one of the main ones that actually come and see me perform on the open mic circuits. So what I like to do is I like to run my material past y'all two first and see if it hits because a lot of times what people don't realize in comedy is you have to find your your identity, your comedic identity, and that's like a limbo, right? When I first started out in comedy, which was back in March of this year, I was more of a like joke teller, and that's how I was telling. I was just boom, tell a joke, boom, tell a joke. But I started to go to the place called the Venue on 35th Street Performance Playgrounds on Thursdays from 8 to 12. It is taught by James Cooper, James Pop Cooper. We call him Pop, and Marlon Hargrave, and they've gotten me more into being more descriptive and going to the storytelling. So I know when I heard your set at the Funny Bone a couple of months ago, I could say that it was more visualization. Like I can actually close my eyes and visualize your jokes playing. So because you use your microphone as your canvas,
Yes.
and you painted your words on that microphone. So I think that was really dope of you to do that because like I said before, it takes a lot of guts to do what you do, and I'm extremely proud of you for doing it.
Well, thank you. I'm proud of myself. It's something when you get to be in your second act. Raised your family. Now it's time to just do what you want to do in life, and my thing is I'm going to keep moving on. I'm just each time I'm going to just do something different to get out the being stale, like coming home, watching TV, whatever the case may be, getting out more, and and just keep living my life and everything. But one thing I will say, Jerome, and to all of you out there, um, just keep doing the best you know how to do. Um, don't worry about what this person may think, this that person may think. In other words, don't let anyone bring their hailstorms, snowstorms, rainstorms, thunderstorms into your sunlight. It was given to you and only to you. And if they don't like your sunlight, tell them put some sunglasses on and get out the way.
Block the haters.
Exactly. Let your haters be your motivators. This is Deborah with an H, signing off. Thank you, Jerome, for having me.
This is Rome Davis signing out. She's the only person that calls me Jerome. Just want to throw that out there.
Also, don't forget to cast your vote for Rome Wasn't Built in a Day or
Demeanor Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is signing off. Deborah, do you want to tell people where they can follow you at? Like,
I have Facebook, but I would need to get back on that social media.
what is your Facebook handle?
Deborah Davis.
Deborah Davis. Mine is, of course, like I said, Rome Davis Comedy. We're signing off. This is the first episode, my first guest host. I appreciate you coming out, Deborah.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good night. Let's keep it right.